The United States killed the radical American-born cleric Anwar al-Awlaki and a colleague who edited al-Qaeda's online magazine. Awlaki has been linked to numerous incidents, including the underwear bomber and the murderous assault at Fort Hood. Along with the killing of Osama bin Laden, today's drone strike in Yemen makes it that much more difficult for Republicans to credibly call the president weak on terrorism. We start with another victory for President Obama in the war on terrorism. Evan Coleman's an NBC News terrorism analyst, and Richard Wolff is an MSNBC political analyst. Thank you, Evan. How did we get him?
We got him because of the fact that after months of tracking this individual, after months of firing missiles at him fruitlessly, we got the right opportunity. There was a meeting that was taking place. It was not near a major populated zone. There wasn't the threat of civilian casualties, and it worked out. There was the right time and the right place, but there was a lot of work and there were a lot of failed efforts that led into this.
How safer are we today? Because we got him.
Here's the problem. Anwar al-Awlaki didn't have an official title in AQAP. He wasn't the leader. He wasn't the deputy leader. He was an advisor. And so he assisted with recruiting Westerners, okay? But he wasn't a military official. He's not a bomb maker. Unfortunately, as far as al-Qaeda in Yemen goes, they have pretty much the same military capabilities today that they did yesterday. It's more of a long-term thing. It may be more difficult for them.
Wait a minute. Let's get this straight. Is he operations or is he propaganda?
He is, look, he's to a small degree operations, to a large degree propaganda. This is somebody who is known as the godfather of homegrown terrorism, of contemporary homegrown terrorism. He's far more valuable in terms of recruiting lone wolves and homegrown extremists than he is as a military official within or in support of AQAP.
So basically, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, this guy goes around, gets on the air, gets on the internet, and stirs up people who may possibly be leaning against U.S. policy in the Middle East, turns them into radicals.
They see him as a rock star. There were the guys out in Fort Dix here in New Jersey who were scoping out terrorist targets. They were listening to Anwar al-Awlaki on their car stereo system while they're pointing out various targets, and they're saying, this guy knows how to do it. We need to follow exactly what this guy is telling us to do.
Well, it looks like an enemy in the field to me. Today, the president said the death of Anwar al-Awlaki was a significant milestone in the broader effort to defeat al-Qaeda and its affiliates. Let's watch the president.
The death of al-Awlaki is a major blow to al-Qaeda's most active operational affiliate. But make no mistake, this is further proof that al-Qaeda and its affiliates will find no safe haven anywhere in the world. Working with Yemen and our other allies and partners, we will be determined, we will be deliberate, we will be relentless, we will be resolute in our commitment to destroy terrorist networks that aim to kill Americans.
Aaron David Miller advised 6 different secretaries of state on Middle East policy, most recently Colin Powell. Well, he told Politico today the president has essentially morphed into a much less reckless and ideological version of Bush 43. His policies on Iraq, Afghanistan, Gitmo, Iran, even Patriot Act issues resemble much more the pragmatic George W. Bush of 2007-2008 than the earlier Lone Ranger version. This doesn't bother me a bit as an analyst observer. What you're saying is, as Bush W. became more aware of reality as it nearly got to the end of his term, as he fell less under the influence of Cheney, he began to be much better as a president and a leader. Obama's more like him.
Yeah, look, I mean, Obama really has gone aggressively after al-Qaeda. No one can argue with that. If anything, you could say that this is overly aggressive. I mean, we're going after people with missile strikes. But I think what Ron Paul and I think some others have gotten wrong here is the idea that just because he's an American citizen, we shouldn't be firing missiles at him. This was someone who declared war against the United States of America, who openly broadcast.
Ron Paul, talk about being out to lunch. You mean if you go join the Nazi army and fight, and you're fighting in the army against us with the SS, and you get killed in action, that's somehow wrong? You need to be given a bill of particulars or whatever?
Yeah, there's no mystery here.
Miranda rights? What's he talking about?
There's no mystery here. This is someone who went on video and said, I want to kill Americans. I want other people to kill Americans, as many as possible. That is declaring war against the United States. If you do something like that, if you make yourself into a clear present threat to U.S. national security, I'm not sure what your argument is that that's an assassination.
I don't even look at it. Let's take a look at it. Here's several Republican candidates today who are out there praising the action. Mitt Romney called it a major victory. Rick Perry congratulated President Obama and the military. Here's Newt Gingrich this morning defending the use of lethal force against Anwar al-Awlaki, who was an American citizen. Let's watch.
American citizens engaged in war against the United States are legitimate targets and I think it was an appropriate and correct thing to execute him.
So they give up the right to due process?
Absolutely. They got due process. The president signed an order to kill him. That was due process. I think President Obama did the right thing, and I praise him for having had the courage to stand up and defend America against somebody who was clearly engaged in trying to kill Americans.
And by the way, that's new talk. Execution, assassinate, that's ridiculous. You shoot an enemy in the field. That's what the president did. Anyway, it's new screwing up things with this awful language. Anyway, however, Ron Paul, of course, as I just said, criticized the action. Let's give Paul his time in court here. Let's listen to Ron Paul criticize the action.
This really is a huge deal, Andrea. After killing bin Laden, I think Awlaki was really the #2 target. No one was more important to protecting the United States. It wasn't just him being an inspiration. This was a man.
That was not Ron Paul. Let's go to this question. It seems to me if someone's in the field, they're doing operations, not just propaganda. It seems to me you've got a good case to bring them down.
Yeah, look, the individual who was killed alongside of him, the other American, Samir Khan, published an article in Al-Qaeda's Inspire magazine, Why I Turned Traitor to America. Other articles in that magazine that he authored included How to Build a Bomb in the Kitchen of Your Mom. When you start publishing material like that, when you start encouraging terrorist attacks, when you align yourselves with people that are building underwear bombs and trying to bring down U.S. airliners, I don't see where the argument is that you have lacked due process. You have identified yourself as an enemy combatant. I mean,
I guess Ron Paul would say we should have one of these weird kind of third world country trials in absentia, where you try the person before you target them.
Look,
what's he talking about?
There's no mystery here. There's no trial.
Okay.
This is someone who has acknowledged the role. There's no question about the guilt.
Back to your specialty, then we're going to go back to Richard. It looks to me like the CIA. I'll go to Richard first. It seems like the CIA is doing its job under Petraeus, following up on the excellent work done by Leon Panetta.
Yeah, it is the CIA, but you know, you've also got to have leadership there. And what the president has got in, especially in John Brennan, is someone who has the authority and the focus to follow through. There has been a concerted effort under John Brennan in the White House to demolish these leaders as they emerge, to use unprecedented numbers of drone attacks. And it's been successful. You could see that in the intelligence they picked up around bin Laden. These people were trying to keep low, cover, not coming out into the open. It hampered them operationally and ultimately led to their demise, not just where we saw around the Al-Qaeda leadership itself, but also these splinter groups. And so, you know, if you look at what the president said he would do in trying to get elected, this fits that. And people can say whether they like his policy on Israel or not, they can pick holes in it, but at least he did what he said he would do when it came to Al-Qaeda.
Last word from you, Evan. They can run, they can hide. Can they hide anymore?
Well, you know, a lot of Al-Qaeda leaders have been killed in the last year. Some very, very senior people. The #1, the #3, the #2, from what we know right now, is on the run, is desperately trying to avoid U.S. drone strikes. How long can he survive? Not that long. The problem is that Al-Qaeda is switching from being an organization to being an ideology. Yeah. And when you have an ideology, when you have a decentralized movement like this, you don't need to have leaders anymore. Anwar al-Awlaki's recordings will live on the internet for decades to come. That's all it takes to radicalize people.
Does that mean no more big operations like 9/11?
Well, that's the hope. That's the hope.
Okay,
but I don't know if we
jinx it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wood. Let's not make bragging points about the future. Thank you so much, Evan Coleman, for coming on. And thank you, as always, Richard Wolff, for excellent commentary on a big, good day for America. It's always better to win.